And welcome to the Scale Model Geek, and my next project is this Kawasaki ZZR1400. Now, using a combination of some resin prints that I created, these hover engines will be added, and I'm going to create a hover bike out of this. Now, I used a piece of software called Blender, and effectively I created the engines using a whole bunch of greeblies that I kind of cannibalized from other 3D models, and I assembled it just exactly the same way as I would any other kit bash kit. And those little 3 or 4 pieces there just appeared. They're actually mech legs, and a bit of resizing and spinning around. I created this little engine. Then it was just a matter of printing it out, and I ended up with these 2 great little engines, great detail in them as well. Really happy with the way that turned out. And the plastic kit I haven't actually built in such a long time, so it'll be fun to actually do something. All my other videos have been 3D resin prints. I'll be converting this bike into something I've been wanting to do for quite a while now. So let's get stuck with the instructions that say I need to do the engine first. So the engine it is. I'm just following the instructions step by step here. I'll be doing the basis of the kit first, and then I'll add all the bits and pieces later to customize it. That's the engine chassis. This is the petrol tank. Now, because I'll be filling up all the areas where the lights are, I'm not too worried about putting backings into them or anything like that. And I'm kind of skipping around the instruction sheet as I go. Went from the engine to the body and back to the engine again. I'm kind of winging it at the moment. I really don't have a solid plan of what I'm going to do. I've got a rough idea in my head, and it's very fluid, this plan, so who knows what how it's going to turn out. And some of these things that I'm gluing on, like those carburetors, I have no idea if we'll see them in the final build. So I just screwed in the engine to the chassis. This is the rear wheel fork. I think that's what it's called. For you motorcycle builders, let me know in the comments. What is this thing called? And that's get screwed into place, and my big fat clumsy hands is such a small little screwdriver. Now that's a single suspension rod there, and some of the braces for it. Sadly, because of the way I was fitting the hover engines later on, I had to chop that off. This is part of the rear tail section. Some strutty things. No idea what they do, but they look cool. Again, screwed into place. It's looking good. And the footrests, I'll be detailing them a little bit later on as well. Now the front spoiler. Now I will glue these lights into place because I need to fill them up anyway. And I need to fill up the hole, so what better way to do it than to use the actual lights to it. Now a bit later on I did add some erudite to it because there was a bit of movement in there, and when I actually sanded it kept on cracking. So a bit of 2-part 5-minute erudite, that solved the problem. dashboard. I'm going to just glue in the fuel cap, which I'm going to end up filling and sanding down. So I'm trying to avoid it looking like a petrol tank. Now this is the grill for the front spoiler. Now on the instruction sheet there is a 1:1 scale size reference, so I kind of cut it out roughly and then trimmed it up with these scissors and glued them into place. The handlebars. Now I did do a bit of a mistake when I put these on. The angle of the handlebars were incorrect, and they were just facing too far upwards. So a bit later on I will need to correct those. At that time they look fine. Now the front suspension struts. Now I won't need the whole length obviously because I have no wheel. I had this great idea, I'll just score it and then snap it. Unfortunately, it snaps straight in the middle. And lucky you don't hear the audio because I was kind of swearing. Not to worry, it's plastic styrene, so you can glue it. We can fix it, we have the technology. This is the way I should have done it from the start, just some snippers. So we get to glue this in place. So we glue this in place and we also get a screw for it as well. Look at that. I actually own a set of precision screwdrivers. I have no idea why I keep on using this little sucker. It's too small and awkward. Like I mentioned earlier, we're putting this area up and the tail light as well. Make sure it's nice and even. And also, if I guess correctly, these are their indicators. Now start off with 180 grit to get it to the rough shape that I wanted. And once I've got it fairly close to the shape, to the body contours, I'll move on to the 400. 400 grit or P400. We end up with a much smoother finish to this. Looking good. And this is the hover engine, and I've putted it up because it had some dimples in it from the supports. And I'm just trying to work out how to mount it, and I've realized those rear forks are in the way, so I'm going to have to chop them off. So easiest way to do that is a hobby knife. You can just chop it off like so, and then using a precision drill, do a quick pilot hole, and then insert the rod. Now I'm using this rod because that's going to be my support for the actual engines. And I'm going to end up using a smaller rod that slides straight inside of that, and it's going to make life so much easier. Now I've decided I'm going to assemble this body fairing. I think it's called a body fairing. Motorcyclists out there, let me know what they call this. a body kit, body fairing, body something. And now we're going to glue this rod that I've cut to size. Make sure it's aligned nicely to where I need it to be. Now this is all the basics all finished off now. Really happy with the way that looks. The body's all sanded and nicely contoured, so it all fits perfectly. The engines are looking good. Yeah, I'm happy with the bits and pieces, but I'm going to have to start, I think, adding some greeblies now to it. This is my 25-year-old box of greeblies that I've collected over the years. Mind you, I did take a break for 20 years, or no modelling whatsoever. And I just went through the box and picked out a whole bunch of things that I thought that might work. And right at the top you'll see the little sprue of, looks like headrests to the left now. I'll end up using those for the footrests. I'm kind of just playing around with it, getting some ideas, seeing how it works. The trick is kind of to make sure it needs to be there and it's functional. And I find this section of the build probably the most rewarding. I like playing around with greeblies. You get to experiment, you get to be creative. These are the suspensions of a tank. I think it was a 1/72 scale tank. And that's the grill of that same tank. And that's, I think, out of another thing. And it's slowly coming together, it's looking good. And the goal is just to simply disguise it as much as possible. Make it look a bit more futuristic. Now put the body fairing back on there, simply just so I can see what areas are still exposed and where I can add some more greeblies. And I thought he needed some hoses in the front as well. And I decided I'm going to add some fins to it, and I just found a rocket, or half a rocket that I had in my junk box, and just chopping off the little fins there. I snapped them off after I scored them, and then glued them on that rear body part. I did have to contour those fins so they matched the body part. Now the hoverbike goes 20% faster. I kind of felt it needed a couple more fins towards the bottom. Now after having a good look at this front body fairing, I kind of thought the hole was way too big, the mouth of it, so I thought I might fill up with some styrene here. So I'm kind of just working out the orientation of how I'm going to actually cut it. I cut a small piece off, then mark it out and just score it and snap it fairly close to what I needed. And then I'm just marking to add a curve to it. And of course we need to glue it into place. And I also did add some supports on the inside. Of course we've got to putty it up. I was very happy with that. Now to add the engine, which I just showed you was actually upside down. And this is where I realised the handlebars are the wrong way around, so here we go, I have to snap them off, re-glue them with super glue. And through the whole build I kept on breaking the handlebars off, and you can see the foot pedals there, I kept on snapping them off as well. What a headache that was. Now I'm making the actual mounting rods. I've chopped the larger size rod, and these ones I'll be actually adding to the engine. Once they're both glued into place, I'll then add the narrower rod. I'm just cutting 2 lengths of that. And the whole idea of using this system is I can then slide it in and out whenever I need to, paint them, put them back in, take them out again. I can twist them if I need to align them. And there you go, it makes life so much easier. And I'm loving the silhouette now, it's looking great. Really happy with that. And I thought I'd better add some more detail to the actual rods, all the support struts. And little things like this make a huge difference. Now after looking at this I kind of thought, okay, I've got a bit of gap between the actual body and the engine, the rear engine. I thought I might use some of my greeblies to fill it up, so I just went through my spare parts box and had a bit of a look, see what I could find, and some were too big, some were too round. And some were just horrid. And this one actually was the bottom of another motorbike engine that I had laying around for, I guess, the last 20 years. So I was really happy with that, so I needed to file off the logos on the side. I think it said Honda on there. And that I thought looked really good, so it was a matter of gluing into place. And then adding some of these little struts there. And just checking to make sure I've still got clearance there, and I've got some. So now I'm just adding some greeblies here and there. Again, some more of those tank suspension bits. You can see all the greeblies I've added. It looks really good. I kind of looked at it and I'm thinking, there's something not quite right. What do I need to do here? Having a bit of a think. Then I thought, I'll think about it later. So pulled out the black undercoat and giving all the bits and pieces a bit of a spray. Once I start doing these base coat, it ties everything together. Makes it look so much better. Well, we need to start adding a bit of a highlight to it. So I'm going to dry brush this Tamiya metallic grey over it. And to do that, I'm going to use some of these brushes that I picked up from TK Maxx. $13, 13 Australian dollars, cheap as. And we're going to give it a bit of a go. And turns out that these dry brushes, well, these makeup brushes that I'm using for dry brushing, actually turned out to be great. Absolutely fantastic. And look at that. I think I need to go back and get a whole bunch more for 13 bucks. Now, after that, all that thinking, I've realized what I need to do is actually add some more greeblies inside. It feels a bit empty in there still. So I went through my parts box and came up with that little base item there. And I thought I'll add a whole bunch of greeblies to it. Of course, I've painted that black and dry brushed it as well. And let's glue it into place. And it makes a huge difference. There isn't such a void behind the engine. But I also thought what I might do is just add a few hoses in there to connect that unit to the rest of the engine. I'm just using this, I think it's 1.5mm wire. And just some random holes in the side and also into the engine. And in retrospect, I probably should have done these a little bit shorter. But I kind of had this idea I might have them slightly hang down like they'll aftermarket hoses, and they've kind of tried to do their best in what they had. I like it, I don't mind it. Probably would have been better shorter. And of course we've got to paint them black. I'm just using the Vallejo black. Of course we've got to dry brush them. Now I thought the front of it was a bit plain as well, so I'm thinking I might put something that looks like sensors or something like that, just to add a bit of visual interest on there once again. And that was just a headlight from one of the model kits. And another something from something else. I'm happy with that. Now also those holes on the side. Now I've been umming and ahhing during the whole kit build. So I thought, yeah, I'll fill it up with this styrene sheet. Now all I have to do is just mark it to size, or roughly to size. Scoring, snapping, that's one of the great things about this sheet styrene. And what I'm doing is I'm putting it in there and pushing it quite firmly with my fingers so it actually contours to the body shape, and then running some liquid glue through it. And same thing on the other side. And also I did those little vent ones on the left hand side of the fairing there. They were all filled in. Now looking at the body of it, I thought it might need some more detail, so I've got these little rivets there. Now these rivets come from the little diamond art things that little old ladies do. I'm referring to my mother. Yeah, a little hobby that they do, and she had thousands of these left over. They've turned out to be great for use as rivets. So, bit of glue, and a lot of patience. Slowly went through the whole body fairing and added these rivets. Quite honestly, I was really happy with the way these rivets were looking. Maybe slightly too big, but still added a great interest to it. I think I might be adding rivets to everything now, since I've got thousands of them. And let's do the base coat for the body as well. We're going with the black. I'll be doing 3 different coats of this, starting off the black, then moving on to another few colours as we build up, because I'll be weathering the kit, and I'll be using a technique I've never done before, so I'll let you in on a little bit later. And that body fairing as well. Now I'm using the steel. This is for the next coat, and this is to show the metal of the body. So when we do the weathering, it actually basically wears through with a sanding technique that I'll show you a little bit later. Nice even coat on all the body parts, including the top of the engine. And now for the rust layer, we're using this red brown, German red brown to be precise. A nice even coat as well. And now I'm going to use this technique that I've never ever actually done before, using some sea salt. Now, basically you just need to crush it down, and I did that with a small little hammer. So I had varying sizes, and then you basically brush the whole thing with some water and then sprinkle some salt on top. And that actually, well, it kind of liquefies the salt and makes it stick to the body, and that creates our rust pattern. Now in retrospect, and obviously because this is the first time I ever did this technique, in retrospect I probably should have crushed it down even finer than what I did. I'm just trying to add enough water so the salt actually dissolves. Now once that's dry, I grab the electric blue and we do the final top coat and just go over all the body parts once again. This will be our final colour. Just making sure we get inside all the crevices of the salt and it's totally painted. Nice even coat. Now while that's drying, I'm grabbing this Soilworks oil wash. I'm just going to go over the engine with it, just add a bit of wear to it. Just randomly going around all the metal bits. And just adding this wash. At this stage I think I'd broken off the foot pedals and the handlebars probably about 4 or 5 times each. And here we go, it's time to get rid of that salt. Now I'll just start off with just rubbing with my hand, getting some of the bigger pieces off. And then quite forcefully with a toothbrush, try and get the rest of it off. I'm really happy with the way that's come up. And you can see it's already creating the texture. Now I'm starting off the P1500 to do some of the wear and tears, but I ended up finding that the 1500 grit is just way too fine, so I ended up changing it over to the 1000 grit, which gave me faster results. And you can see the silver section of it starting to show now, and that looks like our metal layer of the tank or the body fairing and things like that. It's time to glue the tank onto the body. Now I'm using Araldite here because the tank actually doesn't sit completely down, so I need to actually use the Araldite and then push it down onto the tank so it holds better, and then 5 minutes later it's all good. Now of course we need to do the metal parts of the engine, and I'm dry brushing it with this Ammo dry brushing paint, and that's a gunmetal color. Now the glue on the seat, which was sprayed with just flat black, and some hot stick for the rear fins. Now, for some reason I decided I was going to add a bit more weathering, and I decided to use this streaking grime, and I think I kind of overdid it here. I put too much of it. In retrospect, it just probably didn't even need this layer at all, and if it did, just a tenth of what I actually used. It was just way too heavy. It doesn't look too bad. It's just, like I said, in retrospect, in hindsight, when you look back, it's just, yeah, I probably didn't need it. And of course the windscreen, which I almost totally forgot about. So we're just going to place it into the position, just add a couple of dots of this fine Tamiya, and I'm giving the whole windscreen a wash with white, and it's really thinned down with water, and it's actually white grey from Vallejo. Once that's dry, I'm going to add the final pieces, which is these hydraulic hoses that came with the original Kawasaki kit. I didn't use all of them, I just used for the handlebars and a couple of sections on the engine. That's all I needed to do. And I was, overall I was very happy with the way this hoverbike turned out. I learned a lot. First time I ever done this salt chipping technique. I'm just using the hairdryer to soften up the hoses here so I can maneuver them better and shape them to where I need it. So once they cool down, they held in nicely. A lot of things I've learned. I'll probably do another one very shortly because I really enjoyed this build, and now I think it's time for the hero shots.